We're all Mavericks.
Welcome to Mamish Mavericks.
With your hosts, Maynard and ToV Breslow.
We're Olim and Gerim.
And we're also entrepreneurs and marketers.
October 7th changed everything,
including the way we do business.
This is the show that realigns your business and goals
with your values and people.
Everybody, welcome to Mamish Mavericks. Today we're joined by a good friend of mine, Len May. Len May is the CEO of Endo DNA. He's also the host of Everything is Personal. And when Len and I get on, everything is personal, you know? So appreciate you coming on and being here, Len.
Nah, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
It's really great. We've had a lot of meaningful conversations, obviously, back on the dank discussions. And now this is a new kind of direction taken here, talking about a Jewish entrepreneurship. And thought about you right away, obviously, because so many, I guess, intersections or whatever you want to say here in terms of what we do, what we've been doing, what we were saying off the air, how unapologetically Len May is at all times, being in the cannabis world and being proud of a Yiddish guy and being proud of Israel and standing up and everything that's going on. Just really happy. So today we're talking about you, obviously, your background, Endo DNA, or Endo DNA, I should say, and talking about precision wellness, DNA, and of course, everything going on around the world. So a lot of great stuff. But as I always say, let's start off easy. Let our listeners know where you're based at today.
Yeah, I live in Los Angeles, but you brought up a couple of things in the intro. I just want to say that I'm an immigrant in the United States. I was born in Lithuania. I immigrated when I was with my parents when I was like 6, almost 7 years old. And my parents left Lithuania under the Soviet rule at that time in 1979 when they were persecuted for being Jewish. They couldn't practice their religion. So that's why they came to America in the first place. Now, I identified myself as Jewish, but I was never religious. I was bar mitzvahed, but it never was a kind of thing. It was an ethnicity, an identity, but I wasn't connected to the religious aspects of it. I would go to temple and it was Orthodox. I never really connected why women sit separately to men, etc. And then at some point in my life, I went through a pretty difficult divorce and I was searching for something spiritual. I had all my coaching. I was trying to work on myself, my body and all that, my mind, but there was something spiritual that I felt within myself that was missing. And I get a lot of flack for doing this from other people that I know in the community, but I went to Kabbalah. And I went and started taking Kabbalah courses at the Kabbalah Center in Los Angeles. And I would say I had a profound connection, a reconnection to my Jewish self and the meaning behind that. And my daughter went to Jewish school and she's proud of that, the same thing. I'm a tattooed Jew, so it was a little bit of a different type of connection to Judaism until when I was visiting Israel in August of this year, and I was in Tel Aviv, and once again, what an incredible environment, what an incredible place, so much fun, so many different people came together, and it was great. And then they could also demonstrate and walk the streets, thousands and thousands of people protesting against the current government that's there, but it would seem like a real, true democracy. It didn't, all the stuff we see in the news. And then October 7th happened. I'm calling my relatives, calling my cousins, calling my friends, trying to figure this out. Never in a million years did I expect that my daughter, who goes to Berkeley, by the way, would deal with this anti-Semitism that my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. I have both my grandfather's Holocaust survivor names in Hebrew tattooed on me. I never in a million years thought that I would be a person that's out front talking about Judaism and then have my daughter deal with this anti-Semitism. It's been an interesting journey, even in business, listening to some people that we do business with post certain things online that I have to be able to address. And our mezuzah was ripped off her office door. So That's what I'm dealing with.
Wow, Len, I think I was there. I can't believe it's been a year when we're in the office there together. And when we're there, I can't believe it because I remember we're there for my son's first birthday and he's about to turn 2 in another month. So it must have been at that time, right? I came in the office and it was like, hey, Israel, oh, I'm going a little bit. And then we're talking. the pride and just the what goes behind and everything. And it was a whole different world back then, obviously, right? For October 7th, like you said. I didn't know that you were actually born in Lithuania. And I think that there's so many common things here in the sense that being a Jew has nothing to do with how you practice or if you have tattoos or anything like that. It has to do with how much you embrace something aspect of your Judaism or your Yiddishkeit, something that you embrace. And being a Jew is even people who don't embrace are still Jews. But that's something that always struck with me is how much you embrace everything. And I guess talking about the Kabbalah Center and whatever, being, I guess, a unaffiliated, quote unquote, Jew, and where do you have to turn at that time? It's like, well, here we are mainstream, don't really feel comfortable here, don't know this, don't know that, and going to the place that is comfortable and how that leads to other things. And that's like the thing I'm fascinated with is to see how, for me, Hashem, God is like leading us in different ways, step by step, whatever relations we have with our higher power, it's just like taking a step by step there. And even your daughter, she's dealing with in Berkeley. I went to UC Irvine. So this is nothing new. I've seen this for almost 20 years ago when I was there, 17 years ago when I was there, and the anti-Semitism and the same lies that they're saying now, they were saying 17 years ago, right? So it has nothing to do with based on reality or facts. It just has to do with if you repeat something long enough, people will start to believe it. And you now have a whole generation of young people who have been raised on those lies and believe those lies the last 17 years. So when something like this happens, they automatically are like, oh, they're the oppressed. And to your point, you were talking about cannabis and the kind of relationships. There were clients that I had to fire because they were like, now all of a sudden, they know I'm in Israel. They knew that for a whole time, and all of a sudden it's an issue. I'm on the phone with somebody who wants to do business and they find out we're in Israel, and it's an issue. And I'm just like, you know where I'm going to go? I'm going to be more Jewish. I'm going to be more Israel out there. I'm going to it's not something where I'm going to stink back and hide it. It's going to be the opposite, where I'm going to like double down it and be like, yeah, this is it. You want to come work with us? Amazing. We want to work with you. If you think this is an issue, it's right here up front. You can see it in everything where I'm at, and it's part of everything, right? So, I mean, talk to you a little bit more about that. I want to obviously talk about Endo DNA, have amazing stuff, and that's always been cutting edge, everything that going on. But talking to you a little bit about having that in the industry and in Jewish Israel and how things have popped up, and then moving into the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in the cannabis industry alone, there was a tremendous amount of innovation that was created in Israel. Like, we in the cannabis industry should be grateful to Israel and the people of Israel, whether, I'm not even saying Jewish per se, because I'm sure there was other people who may have contributed who weren't Jewish, but they just lived and contributed in Israel. From Dr. Meshulam, from Lumiere, from all these other people that discovered the endocannabinoid system, discovered the endogenous endocannabinoids, the first country in the world to really look at medical cannabis, to do research on medical cannabis, to prescribe cannabis for people, to get feedback on efficacy. This is what we owe our industry, United States and around the world, to the people that stood ahead of everybody. The endocannabinoid system was only discovered in 1992, and the healthcare professionals that went to medical school before that didn't even know that this system existed. So all the people in the world that are consuming cannabis for their therapeutic reasons owe a great deal of thanks to the people who discovered all these molecules and have perfected them in Israel. So that's, first of all, we forget that kind of thing. And also, you mentioned DNA. So there is this propaganda that goes on all the time. I hear Israel doesn't allow DNA testing. It doesn't want anybody to know that these people don't belong and all that stuff. It's a bunch of nonsense. I have a DNA company. We do DNA testing of people who live in Israel and all over the world. I think the only clarification to that is Israel, like France, like many other countries, have, if you're selling a device that does DNA testing within that country, you need to be registered with their version of the FDA. So it has to be approved as a diagnostic device. Now, Germany doesn't require that. Spain doesn't require that. The United States doesn't require that. But France, Israel, and other countries do. That's the only difference in terms of how you use DNA testing within that country. Now, you can still do your 23andMe or your Ancestry, etc. In addition to that, what your results are when you get that. So when you get your results back, it's going to say in my DNA test, and it does say that, I am a 98% Ashkenazi Jew, and I have some Scandinavian, It also says somebody is a Mizrahi Jew, somebody is a Sephardic Jew. Like, Jewish is an ethnicity genetically, regardless of what you were talking about, whether I have a connection to Hashem, whether I have a connection to a higher power. That's my choice. Being Jewish is not a choice. It is in my genes. It is genetic. And I think people get really confused because I know a lot of Jewish people who are born Jewish, but they made a choice to practice Buddhism. So that's their choice. It doesn't change the fact that hereditarily they're Jewish.
No, that's the whole thing with cannabis is that people don't understand is that, like you said, Israel's contributed so much. It's part of the history. THC molecule, as you said, Dr. Meshulam, we've been in the cannabis culture pretty much our whole lives. For better or for worse, we are the way we are as well because we've been in cannabis. And part of cannabis culture is this aspect of counterculture. And the man, fuck the man, excuse my language. And it's different from dank discussions. I'm trying to watch my language on this one more than I would in dank discussions. But we're always the man's trying to screw us over. And this whole aspect of we got to stick together and reggae music and all the things that go on, which are all cool, but somehow Jews get lumped in with the man and Israel gets lumped in with the man when it's this kind of topic. And it's all these poor Palestinians. Oh, it's so sad what's going on. It's wild what's going on. But I tend to notice that while it gets us, obviously the violence is on the rise, the anti-Semitism is on the rise, but still I think that it's still the loud minority in the sense of I still talk to people where they're like, Maynard, we're with you. Maynard, I love you. Maynard, how you doing? I get people who want to work with us because we're here. And I get people who are so supportive because of that. And they see that it's, oh my gosh, it's all shtuyon, it's all stupidity, it's all craziness, run amok, everybody's with sugar. So there's still that aspect. And like you said, everybody's unique, right? And we got to focus on that uniqueness. And behind everything that's unique is DNA, right? Something that makes us different, something that makes us uniquely us, that nobody else is like that, except for identical twins. But that being said, talk to me about Endo DNA, talking about everything that's going on. What is Endo DNA, Endo Ghana, everything? I think it's fantastic. And I know our listeners want to hear more about it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. And just to clarify, 99.9% of our DNA is identical. Is a 0.1% that makes us different. And this is what people need to remember. Our cousins in Gaza are very close genetically to us. We're all related. And I think if we all just smoke the peace pipe together, I think we can take care of all the violence. I don't know anybody that consumes cannabis and then wants to go out and fight anyone. And then I suggest we do that with our Ethiopian and our Jamaican brothers. We all get together, listen to some reggae music, and forget all this stuff. That's my opinion. But we're a precision wellness company. So we believe in using your DNA as sort of your GPS guide to your own personalized health and wellness. And one of the main reasons for that is we're born with half our DNA from our mother, half our DNA from our father. And the way I describe this is maybe 20%, think of it as a big on-off switch, a bunch of different on-off switches. And about 20% of them when we're born, maybe a little bit higher, are in the on position. So these are genes that are already expressed or being expressed, that like our hair color, our eye color, our skin color, those kind of things. But the rest of our DNA, we have the power to turn on or off based on lifestyle choices. So if you live your life without knowing which genetic predispositions you have, you may be accidentally turning on certain things that you may not want to turn on. So I can drive from Los Angeles to Philadelphia without a GPS. Now I'm going to hit potholes on the road. I'm going to hit traffic jams, maybe road closures, etc. I'm going to get there, but at what cost? What adverse events and I'm going to have? By us providing you your own personalized GPS unit using your genome, you now can navigate your life choices more with more education and more empowerment. And you can collaborate with your healthcare professional because they can administer a DNA test. You can collaborate with your healthcare professionals for truly precision wellness. So you can swab your DNA test, you can swab your DNA, register it, and once we have your DNA that's fully anonymized, so meaning you have a number that's associated with you, it's not Maynard's name per se, now you can choose which reports you want. You can choose your endocannabinoid system report. Now you can look at your nutrient and vitamin deficiencies. What if you're predisposed to iron deficiency and you make a choice to be a vegan? Guess what? You want to supplement with additional things because you'll have some deficiencies in your iron levels. We look at mental health. We have a mental health report. Now it looks at treatment-resistant depression. And somewhere around 30% of population has treatment-resistant depression, but they're still being prescribed SSRIs or antidepressant medication, even though that will not work for them, but they'll still get all the side effects from that medication. We even have skin reports. What predispositions do you have for things like rosacea or eczema? And by the way, where does that come from? Maybe it comes from some internal autoimmune or inflammation that actually is now on your skin. And what can you do to be able to address those things? We actually completed a report with Dr. Jennifer Berman. She's one of the top female sexual health doctors in the world. And we created a report called Menopause Biotype, which shows women if they have a predisposition to menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, and what are the side effects of menopause that they may be predisposed to, so we can get ahead of that by doing hormone optimization, by doing per se supplementation, including phytocannabinoids, etc. So it really is a book and experience that looks at your DNA, gives you a suggested protocol, then measures the efficacy of that protocol, all goes up to the cloud, and then we use machine learning AI to make better predictive inferences. And we have patents on our technology, and we have patents on formulations that we license out to manufacturers all over the world. And the goal is really to create the world's largest observational study, so we can provide that information to healthcare professionals all over the world, that they can really have this collaborative experience with their patients.
No, it's amazing. And I mentioned you always being on the cutting edge of cannabis, cannabinoids, but Endo DNA is really expanded. It's really expanded in so many different aspects and applications, right?
Yeah, it's expanded outside. Like your endocannabinoid system touches all the different systems. So looking at your endocannabinoid system report is really, truly an important beacon. When we met with the FDA in the US, they asked us, what is the purpose of your test? And we told them to help people either avoid or mitigate a possible adverse event. What does that mean? So if we're looking at things that you may be predisposed to that we don't want to turn on, that's the first step. And once you learn what things you can avoid, now you can find what type of formulations, ratios are best for you. In addition to that, we're looking at dosing. Dosing is a huge thing. Like being in Israel, we were all huge proponents of the Green Book. And the Green Book always talked about milligram per kilogram of weight. That never made sense to me because my business partner, who you know, Eric, he's a larger man than me. He's physically weighs more. He's bigger than me, but he's an ultra slow metabolizer of THC, for instance. So if he and I consume the same exact amount of THC, we'll have completely different experiences, even though he's physically larger. And it has to do with your metabolic function. In addition to that, knowing exactly which type of phytocannabinoids you're consuming. So if you're consuming an isolated molecule of THC, there's a different enzymatic pathway that metabolizes that one than versus a whole plant with CBD and THC. It's a different enzymatic pathway. So if you were a poor metabolizer of THC, you may not be a poor metabolizer of CBD and THC together because it's a different pathway. So that's when full spectrum flower or tincture makes a difference, especially if you're consuming first pass. And the third part of that is drug interaction. What if somebody's consuming prescription medication? Is there an interaction? Drug-to-drug interaction is a real thing. And cannabis does definitely interact with some of these medications. What type of medications? Many different types, but antidepressant medication, SSRIs, blood thinner medication like warfarin that can be an inducer or inhibitor. So those are all the things that we're learning. And as you just mentioned, doing a whole genome, once you're swabbed, we can provide all kinds of different reports for you, like the Women's Health Report or the vitamin nutrient deficiency report, or we have a men's health report that looks at predispositions to hormone deficiencies. So as you get older, like me, I'm in my 50s. As you get older, your hormone levels
good, baby,
change.
looking good.
Thank you, man. your hormone. That's because I do my DNA testing and I'm my
Exactly.
personalized protocol for sure. But that's exactly what it is. You want to have what's individualized to me. And I want to understand, based on my genetics, I want to understand what I can do to reduce my biological age. Longevity is a big field right now that everybody's trying to get into. But longevity, if I'm going to live my life till 100, and from 80 to 100, I'm in bed and I'm sick and I'm suffering, that's not quality of life. You want to live a vibrant life. So instead of longevity, we focus on health span. How long can I live and still be healthy and relevant? So the things that you need to do is reduce your biological age versus your chronological age. And it has to do with the epigenetic expression of different things that you will put in your body, how it's expressing. So once you have a lot of cell death and you have what's called senescence, your body starts slowing down, producing new cell growth. Your mitochondria, which is the energy center for your cells, starts slowing down and not producing new cells. And as we stop producing new cells, our old cells begin to die and we begin to deteriorate and die. And that's when diseases start showing up as well, the ones that you may be genetically predisposed to. So if you're actively working on reducing your biological age, so I'm 52, I'm 47 biologically, but I want to get my biological age down to 40. What do I do? So this is my personalized protocol. Supplements, nutrients, the food that I put in my body, the exposure to heavy metals, pesticides, mercury, all these different things, and then measure. Implement, you measure, and then we use AI, which we have a patent on as well, to start looking at, all right, there's 1,000 people that are similar to Maynard. You're an individual. Nobody's like you, but similar genetically that took the same protocol and shown efficacy. Now the AI starts getting better at making those predictions and recommendations. And that's really the future of precision wellness.
I love that. I think I definitely take for granted, right? I've been doing discussions for years in that podcast and able to just run through jargon and stuff and everything's personal, right? But there's maybe a lot of people here who don't know what endocannabinoid system is and don't understand really the importance of it, and also cannabinoids in general and kind of the things that I mentioned there. What is the endocannabinoid system and why is that so important to be able to be front and center of this precision wellness?
Yeah, it's such a great question because we just talked about 1992. It's not that long ago that this system was discovered. And a lot of people don't even know, is there really an endocannabinoid system? Yeah, there absolutely is.
And it sounds too good to be true, right? It's not,
it doesn't exist. Israelis made it up.
No way.
The endocannabinoid system is a primary modulating system. Its goal is to maintain balance or homeostasis within our other systems, within our bodies. And the way that it does that, it's a very unique system because it gets signals from the other systems in our bodies and sends them up the central nervous system like salmon swimming upstream. And then once your brain gets the signals from those systems, it actually makes a decision to release neurochemicals. So the two endogenous means that we produce them ourselves, that our brain produces as part of the endocannabinoid system, are anandamide and 2-AG. These are the neurochemicals that our body secretes in order to keep our body in homeostasis and balance. Now, the interesting part about that is the plant itself has phytocannabinoids that actually have a binding affinity to receptors that we have in our bodies that actually bind and produce endogenous endocannabinoids. So when we consume cannabis from the plant, and when we get it from the plant, it has a cannabinoid with an acid molecule attached to that. Once we heat that cannabinoid, so it's called decarboxylation, the acid molecule actually falls off, and that molecule is shaped exactly perfectly to fit the receptor that's in our bodies and brains. So we have two receptors that are primarily focused on the endocannabinoid system, the CB1 receptor and the CB2 receptor. The CB1 receptor is mostly located in your brain and your central nervous system, with some exceptions. And the CB2 receptor is in your immune, digestive system, more body. So when we consume the decarboxylated version of THC, it binds to your CB1 receptor and releases anandamide. Anandamide is our endogenous endocannabinoids. The word ananda means bliss, so it's our bliss molecule. It's also the one that's secreted when we get the runner's high, when we run, and it's a euphoric molecule. And when we consume the decarboxylated version of CBD, the acid molecule drops off, and it has an affinity for the CB2 receptor, which then releases 2-AG, which helps modulate our immune response to things. And it's very important to understand that everybody has a system that helps us maintain balance and homeostasis, but there are certain genetic predispositions and certain single nucleotide polymorphisms that affect the way that some people secrete these neurochemicals like anandamide. You didn't ask me about this yet, but I'll just give an example. There is a polymorphism, a genetic biomarker called FAH, F-A-H, and it stands for fatty acid amide hydrolase. There won't be a test, but you guys can Google this. So
It will be a
FAH,
test. I'm correcting you.
You'll give a test to the So FAH produces an enzyme that actually breaks down anandamide. So somebody that has what's called a homozygous allele combination, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. Somebody that has a certain genotype actually breaks down more anandamide than the average person. You're not producing as much anandamide. Two things that can happen. Number one, you're much more prone to stress and anxiety in general because the cortisol level that you secrete stays long in your bloodstream. You can be prone to inflammation and pain because your immune system will overreact to that. The second thing that can happen is that people that have this predisposition are the ones that say, cannabis makes me anxious. It creates stress. So if you know this about yourself genetically, there's ways to mitigate that. And ways to mitigate that is maybe take a ratio of balanced CBD to THC, change the terpene profile, linalool, beta-caryophyllene, something that is more calming and relaxing than something that's more stimulating. So there's ways to be able to navigate that. But because if you do not know this about yourself, you're operating in the dark.
And so much great stuff there. I guess in layman's terms, right, it's like this, we have a central nervous system. Every mammal has this. And we also have an endocannabinoid system. And built in are receptors, right, that only take from cannabinoids, CB1, CB2, and they help to maintain homeostasis by releasing natural neurochemicals. And I guess so many people who've never really been exposed to this, or maybe people who are, I think, as we see, unfortunately, people, they hear about cannabis, and if they have anything against it, it's not until that, God forbid, they need it or their loved one needs it to improve their quality of life that then it starts turning. We've seen this a lot in the Jewish world, unfortunately, where then it becomes a thing, oh, how can we help? And now this is like the opening place for it, right? So I guess this is a thing that every mammal has and maintains homeostasis. Two questions here. One is, how are we getting it all this time, or were people just smoking weed all the time in order to get it? And secondly, if somebody maybe doesn't want to go that route, what's the best way for them to be able to find out exactly what they need, like you said, right, and make somebody anxious? Okay, I need more of this, as you mentioned, right? So how is Endo DNA specifically taking the test that you're getting and being able to help them with that precision wellness directly?
Yeah, you made a good point. All mammals have an endocannabinoid system, and it's not that we grew up with the plant for thousands of years. We found remnants in old temples in Judea.
Yeah.
We found remnants in the Far East, in different spiritual practices, in therapeutic practices. Queen Victoria used to take cannabis for her period cramps. So we've been doing this for thousands of years. This plant grew up with us. And by the way, there's a lot of different things that we evolved with that we no longer need. So those receptors we evolved out of, they're no longer in our bodies, but the endocannabinoid system receptors are still there. So it's really important. And we've had deficiencies in our endocannabinoid system for many years. And what happens is when we have deficiencies without cannabis, we were taking other prescription medication, we were expressing symptoms, but healthcare professionals never understood that a lot of those things had to do with deficiencies in our own endogenous endocannabinoids, what we were producing ourselves. And you're absolutely right about this whole notion of needing it. My parents kicked me out of the house for consuming cannabis, which was my medicine for ADD. I gave up prescription medicine.
Welcome to the club. Same thing.
Cannabis, became my medicine. They kicked me out. They called the cops to have me arrested. But the irony of this is now they both consume formulations that we produce, and they're big proponents of that. I have family members, I have friends that used to say, he's the druggy guy, blah, blah, blah. But now they're coming to me and for help for all these conditions. So the way that Endo DNA does this is, as I mentioned before, but I'm going to reiterate, we have two ways to get your DNA information. One is a buccal swab. So we swab the inside of your cheek, you register this, it becomes anonymized, and then you would get your report in your own personalized portal, also with a PDF that you can share with your healthcare professional, or your healthcare professional in their office can administer the Endo DNA test as a second option. The second way that we get your DNA information is an upload of raw data from a DNA test that you may have already taken before. So if you've taken a 23andMe, if you're taking an Ancestry.com, My Family Tree DNA, you take the raw data, which is like a big spreadsheet with letters and numbers on it, or a zip file. You would upload that to Endo DNA. We'll translate that, interpret it, and provide you a report within 1 day. So you don't have to wait 2 to 4 weeks where you would normally wait for a full Endo DNA test. And what you would get in the report is you would get all your genetic predispositions to certain symptomatic conditions, as you're mentioning, anxiety, sleep, mood, pain, cognitive function, digestive, metabolic, all that would be in the report. It will show you your specific genotype, what your genetic code is, encoding is for that, and then give you a suggestion on a ratio of cannabinoids and terpenes, but also supplements, all these different things that I mentioned before, all those will be in the report, and then help you find the right products and the right protocol through a personalized treatment plan that will be tailored directly to you.
Wow. Amazing. There's so much there. And I think another thing too is people don't realize how really free-flowing, I guess, you're talking about ancient plant and everything, but just cannabis was growing, hemp specifically was growing, and animals would eat it, and we would eat the animals, and there's just something that we're getting throughout history, and then it's been lost, and you can see that people are lacking homeostasis. We're lacking this. People can feel the tension, and then we turn up prescriptions and everything else going on, and there's something that we're lacking. Then the person, if they have anxiety and they maybe one pill doesn't work, they're not going to say, oh, none of them work. They're going to say, maybe that one wasn't the best for me. And they're going to ask their doctor, what else is there? Is there this? Oh, I like this one actually. And I guess people aren't having necessarily the same patience with cannabis, but you know, that's what Endo DNA is there. And there's so much to talk about here, but I know we're running short on time. I want you to talk about, if you can, making cannabis personal, your book. I have it there behind you there. And they say he wrote the book on this. He wrote the book on, you literally wrote the book on making cannabis personal. Here you are. Talk to me about the importance of this and what value people can get out of making cannabis personal.
Yeah, you brought up an excellent point about this whole deficiency in your endocannabinoid system. And when we look at it through history, prohibition was a turning point in certain diseases starting to express themselves. The pharmacist is complicit of that. But they're complicit of that across the board, taking natural substances and then being able to synthesize that as a synthetic and putting you on the subscription plan of pharmaceuticals. That's really their goal. And when you're talking about animals and water, hemp grew everywhere. And we had some of those phytocannabinoids coming in our bodies as a supplement without us even knowing that we're consuming those things. So the book is a two-parter. One of them, the first part is my story. It talks about the whole thing that I talked about, my ADD and how I found cannabis that works for me, and some crazy stories working in the black market of cannabis. I've been in the cannabis space for a long time, and some crazy stories.
Legacy market.
Legacy market. It's so hard to imagine, like, how many of my friends went to jail, how we would sneak and try just so we can get medicine. And we stand on the shoulders of the people that really came before us, Dennis Perron, Brownie Mary, all these different people that have helped so much with AIDS patients and cancer patients. And I talk about some of that in my book as well. And then the second part of the book is personal stories. Now, I don't mention people's names. The names have been changed, but it's stories of people that had conditions that they've then taken DNA tests or endo DNA tests and found a formulation of work for them for many different things. People that had adverse effects from trying cannabis before and swore off cannabis. I would never take cannabis again because it was difficult for me to consume, but then finding the right formulation and changing things. A story of a woman that was going through chemo treatment, that went to a dispensary, took a bunch of gummies because the bud tender told her to do, and had an awful experience and started telling everybody not to consume cannabis.
Horrible.
But she took way too much, the wrong kind, nothing for that. So after taking the endo DNA test, it's great because she would walk around, like she would get chemo in a group environment where they would all be lined up. And afterwards, she would give out her business card to people to say, hey, call these guys because they can help you to alleviate the side effects of the chemo that you're suffering from. And it was a complete 180-degree switch. So these are the kind of things that are covered in my book. And I talk about some of these things on my podcast as well, which is Everything is Personal.
No, it's great stuff. And like we said, a lot of stuff. We're not encouraging everybody, you got to go and buy weed and start smoking it. But there are ways to understand what kind of things you need inside of you, and doesn't have to include THC, which will get you high. And so many different cannabinoids, hundreds of cannabinoids in there, close to the hundreds that we discovered. And that doesn't even include terpenes and other things that have effect that come together. And Len here and his company are exactly how you can find out what your body needs and how to obtain that. Tell our listeners how they can find out more about Endo DNA and specifically what they need in this precision wellness future.
Yeah, just go to endodna.com. I'll give your audience my code. It's Len25. You get 25% off of DNA testing or any other products. But we, like I said, we have different formulations, patent formulations that we license out to manufacturers all over the world. That's also connected through My DNA Live, which is our portal when you get your results. And you can get any products through there as well. Taking advantage of that. You can reach me if you have any questions. I'm very active on certain social platforms. I'm at Len May DNA or LenMay on other platforms. But if you contact me, I'll be happy to help. We have a healthcare provider network as well. So I'm not a physician, I'm not a healthcare professional, but through telehealth, we can connect you to a healthcare professional. We have PharmDs available if you're thinking about drug interactions and how you can safely consume. But that's the goal. It's being able to find something that is specific to you, whether it's a combination of phytocannabinoids, hormones, whether it's phytocannabinoids or no phytocannabinoids. And there's supplements and nutrients and all those different things. And as you mentioned, cannabidiol, CBD, it can be used as a supplement on a daily basis without the euphoric feeling of getting you high. And if you have some of those needs and deficiencies, that's a great way to be able to start implementing phytocannabinoids in your daily supplement.
Amazing stuff. And so everybody check out, there'll be links here to get all that stuff and use the coupon code. Be able to find it very quickly here on the description, show notes, wherever you're finding this podcast. And anything exciting coming up here for Endo DNA, Len, you want to share with us?
Lots of exciting things coming up. We have some interesting possible merger news coming up. So we'll be able to talk about that hopefully sometime soon. But it'll create an entire ecosystem that allows us to do our own lab testing, allows us to do all kinds of different products, goals outside of the cannabis space as well. So definitely look out for that. And then our exciting test that we'll be rolling out in the next 2 weeks, which is the menopause biotype with Dr. Jennifer Berman. This is a life-saving test for women specifically that are looking, that may have, my mom was telling me if she knew this when she was going through menopause, it would actually change her life. She was prone to weight gain and really different types, headache, all kinds of different adverse effects. So knowing that up front, you can mitigate that. So I would definitely encourage people to check that out in the next couple of weeks. It'll be out, released, menopause biotype test.
Wonderful. I'm excited to hear about the merger with Chateau Vaz, was saying in its proper time, hoping to hear good news. And Len, wow, we can keep going forever and ever. Always a great conversation with you. And I just want to give you a bracha that you should continue to see men's growth, and not only in Endo DNA and in business, but also in your purposeful life, to have not husband your daughter, and to see really this whole situation in Berkeley, the turnaround for the ultimate best. Everybody should see the amazing things going on, and to see her growth in a positive way and only good things, and just to continue in health, in precision wellness for yourself and for your family and for everybody that you love. The very best.
No, I appreciate you, brother, and thank you so much, and be safe. And like I said, hopefully we can, instead of passing an olive branch back and forth, maybe we can pass some cannabis back and forth to our cousins that live right next door, all around us, everywhere. And let's come together in peace. That's what we're about, peace and love.
They're a lot closer than we think. It's going to be a big surprise when Hashem reveals everything, and they'll be like, oh, we thought they were just cousins, but we'll save that conversation for another time. In any case, Len, appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for listening as well, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you.